The first mistake the galaxy made was assuming the humans were extinct. The second mistake? They kept talking after the Titan arrived. 15 seconds. That was all it took for the galaxy to learn fear again. A ship unlike any ever recorded, monolithic, black as a starless void, slid out from a rift in space. No drive signature, no detectable engines. It simply appeared, like a ghost deciding it had business in the realm of the living. The galactic assembly chamber, orbiting the jewel-blue world of Orhis Prime, erupted into static-filled panic. Dozens of species shouted across translation nodes. Tentacles flailed, mandibles clicked, and bioluminescent scales flashed distress colors. Unregistered vessel, size classification, Titan class, unknown origin, droned the assembly AI, its normally calm voice glitching. Presence, inducing anomalous gravitational pressure. The Ketheri delegate, a six-eyed reptilian aristocrat, hissed. Nothing that massive should move without collapsing in on itself. What fools drive such a cursed construct? The answer walked in. The chamber doors parted, and a single human strolled inside. Black uniform, no insignia, hands folded politely behind his back. His steps echoed with deliberate calm. No guards had seen him board. No record showed a docking. He was simply there, like his ship. "Good afternoon," the human said, smiling warmly as though greeting neighbors at a Sunday barbecue. "I'm terribly sorry for the dramatic entrance. Spatial folds can be messy." The delegates froze. Even the war-born Auric, who could tear a tank apart with their tusks, shuffled uneasily. The human's voice was soft, but something in it carried weight, the kind of weight that made apex predators question their position on the food chain. The assembly chair, a feathery Avatari elder, adjusted his translator. "Identify yourself, visitor." "Captain Elias Grant," the human said, offering a shallow bow. "Representative of Earth." He paused, then added cheerfully, "You may have heard of us. Or perhaps not. We're not very loud until we want to be." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Earth was legend, an origin point, a world thought long lost to war, silence, and the graveyard of history. For 2 centuries, no signal, no envoy. To most, humanity was a myth used in cadet lectures. The species that burned too brightly. Yet here one stood, smiling, in a hall full of rulers. The Ilthari Chancellor leaned forward, mandibles grinding. "Your vessel violates every law of physics. Explain how it sustains mass without collapse." Elias chuckled, the kind of laugh someone uses when a child asks how electricity tastes. "With respect, Chancellor, that's a bit like asking a magician to reveal the trick during the performance. I'd hate to spoil the fun." That tone, casual, almost self-deprecating, carried something darker underneath. Several delegates realized it at once. This human wasn't asking for permission. He was announcing presence. The chair attempted diplomacy. "Earth has been absent for centuries. Why return now, and with that?" He gestured at the void-born Titan visible through the chamber's grand viewport. Its hull swallowed light, edges bending perception like a mirage. Elias tilted his head as if pondering how much to share. "Oh, you know how it goes. Empires rise, treaties form, enemies multiply. We thought we'd check in. Make sure the neighborhood's still friendly." He smiled too warmly. "It doesn't seem so." A ripple of discomfort spread. The Auric warlord snarled. "You mock us, little primate. This chamber has seen empires older than your kind's infancy. You come with threats veiled in courtesies?" Elias didn't flinch. Instead, he looked at the warlord with a sympathetic expression, the way one might regard a dog barking at a storm. "Threats? No, no. A threat is conditional. If you do this, then I will do that. I prefer guarantees." He let the words hang. The silence after them was heavier than any weapon. The delegates began to realize the problem. The human wasn't negotiating from weakness. He was playing with them, as though the outcome had already been decided. The Ketheri hissed again. "What is that ship?" "No heat signature, no life signs, no reactor. It registers only as void." Elias finally glanced back through the viewport. The Titan floated like an omen, its angles warping space itself. Ah, that old thing. We call it the Oblivion Crown. Built for difficult conversations. His grin widened, all teeth, none of it reaching his eyes. The assembly AI stuttered. Energy readings, inconsistent. Object does not conform to material reality. Several delegates recoiled. The humans had not just returned. They had returned wielding something that bent the laws of nature into suggestion. The chair attempted to salvage composure. Captain Grant, you stand before a council representing 57 sentient species. You cannot expect us to. Oh, but I can, Elias interrupted politely. His voice never rose, yet it cut clean through the chamber. I don't expect you to kneel because I ask. I expect it because you've already felt it. Confusion swept the room, until one by one, delegates realized their posture had shifted. Shoulders hunched. Heads bowed. Even the Auric, stubborn brute of a warrior race, had lowered his tusks unconsciously. The pressure wasn't physical, but primal. The Voidborn Titan was pressing on them. A survival instinct older than civilization whispered, "Predator." Elias clapped his hands once, breaking the spell. Well, that was fun. But really, I'm here to talk, not to terrify. I'd like to propose cooperation. Earth has plans, and you all have resources. It could be mutually beneficial. The Avatari chair's feathers bristled. And if we decline? Elias's smile softened, almost pitying. Then we will mourn the loss of potential friendship. Briefly. The way he said briefly carried more weight than an armada. The chamber dissolved into frantic overlapping voices. Some delegates hissed warnings, others urged alliance, a few demanded immediate military mobilization. Yet beneath the chaos lay a shared, unspoken realization: humanity hadn't returned as survivors. They had returned as something else. Something voidborn. Elias turned, as if bored already, and started walking back toward the doors. Take your time. We're patient. Well, patient enough. He paused at the threshold, glanced over his shoulder, and delivered the final cut of the day. Do remember, ladies and gentlemen, when humans knock, they're rarely asking permission. They're checking how sturdy the door is. The doors closed behind him. The chamber sat in stunned silence, every species calculating the same impossible question. Had humanity truly been gone, or had they simply been waiting? The Galactic Convergence Chamber was not designed for comfort. It was designed to remind everyone who entered that they were very small, very replaceable, and very temporary compared to the millennia-spanning civilizations who held seats there. The domed chamber gleamed with crystalline walls that refracted light into dizzying patterns. Hollow sigils floated above each delegation's podium, displaying their world symbols. The air itself smelled faintly of ozone and authority. Today, however, none of that grandeur mattered. Today, the chamber was unsettled. At the center, the High Speaker of the Karth Dominion, a scaled creature with eyes like molten coins, slammed a claw against the podium. Order! We convene because an impossible thing has walked among us. Titan. Human-born. The word human spread across the chamber like static, pulling twitching antennae, tightening jaws, and stirring gills. From the delegation pit, a smaller being with translucent skin rippled its membrane nervously. The Selnari speaker's voice came out as a whisper amplified by translation nodes. Humans. I thought their homeworld burned centuries ago. Extinguished by their own chaos. A gravelly laugh answered him from across the chamber. The Vorn ambassador, a bipedal bulk of armored plates, leaned forward. Extinguished? That's what we wanted to believe. It appears extinction does not suit them. A murmur ran through the assembly. The High Speaker extended a claw toward a holographic projection rising in the center of the chamber. It flickered, stabilizing into the image of a colossal warship, black, angular, wrong in proportions as if reality bent to contain it. Along its hull glowed sigils and weapon nodes that no species present could identify. The alien leaders stared in silence. Finally, the speaker of the Lyrics Collective, a delicate being who communicated through vibrating threads of silk, spoke in a shiver of tones. Explain how this vessel exists. It breaks the treaties, the accords, even the laws of void physics. Quantum lock fields that should collapse entire systems, stabilized on a human hull? That should be impossible. The Vorn ambassador grunted. Impossible is a human word. They've always made it temporary. A ripple of unease spread. From the back corner, seated with almost casual posture, was the only human in the chamber, Commander Elias Ward. He wore no armor, no glowing insignia. Just a dark uniform, its cut simple, its surface unadorned save for a silver pin on his chest, Earth's old emblem. He looked impossibly ordinary in contrast to the monstrous grandeur of the others. And yet, every gaze flicked toward him, as if the chamber's gravity bent around his presence. Ward smiled politely, the way one might smile at dinner guests while knowing exactly which knives were sharpened beneath the table. When the High Speaker finally gestured to him, the chamber fell into a silence so thick it felt physical. Human. Explain this. Titan. This abomination. Ward rose slowly, adjusting his cuffs like a man about to give a lecture rather than defend the most feared weapon in living memory. His voice was calm, almost apologetic. Ladies, gentlemen, entities of fluid and gas composition. He bowed slightly toward the Lyrics and the Selnari. I understand your concern. The Voidborn Titan is, well, let's say, a relic. Something humanity began in secret before the fall of Earth. You might call it unfinished business. Gasps and clicks filled the chamber. The Selnari's membrane rippled violently. You built that before you destroyed yourselves? Ward tilted his head with mock thoughtfulness. Destroyed is such a strong word. We prefer relocated. Temporarily unavailable. The High Speaker's eyes narrowed. And now you unveil this Titan to us? Why? What do you intend? Ward's smile sharpened, though his tone remained disarmingly cordial. Intend? Nothing dramatic. Humans are fond of deterrence. You see, we've noticed galactic history has an unfortunate habit of swallowing civilizations whole. Waves of empires rise and collapse. Someone conquers, someone resists, someone is annihilated. It's a cycle. And frankly, we dislike being caught in other people's cycles. The chamber shifted uneasily. The Lyrics threads trembled. The Vorn ambassador leaned closer, voice low. You expect us to believe you unearthed a god ship simply to deter? Ward's eyes gleamed with amusement. Well, deterrence does require credibility. That earned a ripple of nervous laughter from some of the smaller delegations, laughter that quickly died when they realized the human wasn't joking. The High Speaker slammed his claw again. Human, do you understand the scale of what you threaten? Entire species will arm themselves in response. You risk igniting the galaxy. Ward's voice remained calm, almost regretful. Speaker, with respect, the galaxy has always been aflame. We've simply decided to bring a bigger fire extinguisher. The chamber bristled. Some species hissed in outrage, others shifted in wary contemplation. For the first time in centuries, the galactic balance felt fragile. Then, quietly, the Lyric Speaker asked, And if we resist this? If we do not kneel? Ward met the question with a gentle smile that somehow chilled the chamber. Then you'll discover what's worse than kneeling. The silence that followed was absolute. The meeting dragged for hours after that, but nothing settled the unease. Arguments erupted, delegations accused each other of weakness or secret alliances with humanity. Some left in fury. Others lingered, whispering of negotiations. Through it all, Ward remained seated, polite, occasionally offering a word of reassurance that only deepened their dread. When the chamber finally emptied, the Vorn ambassador lingered. He lumbered toward Ward, lowering his armored bulk so their eyes met. You hide teeth behind your smiles, human. My kind respects that. But tell me truth, is this Titan your only weapon? Ward's smile softened, almost weary. Ambassador, humans rarely bring their only weapon to the first meeting. The Vorn rumbled low in his throat. It might have been laughter. Or fear. Or both. Then he left. Ward stood alone in the chamber, gazing up at the hologram of the Titan. Its vast shape loomed like a shadow across the galaxy. He whispered to himself, words only the empty chamber could hear. They'll either kneel willingly, or they'll kneel when the void reminds them what humans do best. The chamber shook as if reality itself had shivered. No weapon had been fired. No ship had entered orbit. And yet every alien present felt it, the suffocating heaviness that rolled in like a tide. The human was still smiling. Do forgive the theatrics, Marcus said, bowing slightly, though his eyes never left the assembly. Old habits. You know how it is. The Koran delegate, a species armored in plates of volcanic rock, clutched at his chest. His breathing came sharp, ragged. What is this pressure? Some weapon? Some trick? Marcus tilted his head, pretending to consider. Pressure? Oh. That. He waved a hand as if brushing dust from a table. I forget sometimes. Humans, especially the Voidborn, carry a certain presence. Nothing intentional, I assure you. The Grell ambassador, a serpentine creature with 6 glittering eyes, hissed. You mock us. No creature exerts gravity of the soul. This is artifice. An intimidation field. Gravity of the soul, Marcus repeated with a chuckle. That's poetic. I'll have to use it next time I'm on a date. The laughter was light, but the atmosphere wasn't. The assembly felt like it was being pressed beneath unseen weight, knees quivering, stomachs roiling. Every alien glanced around, unsure if anyone else was faring better. They weren't. Even the mightiest looked diminished under the human's easy grin. Marcus continued casually, strolling as though he were in a garden. Let me be perfectly clear. Humans didn't design this. It's not machinery or sorcery. It's biology. Evolution. A result of where we were born, how we adapted. You expect us to believe this? Snapped the Ilthari representative, whose translucent skin glowed faintly with veins of blue light. His voice trembled despite his words. That one species can radiate dominance without a device? Preposterous! Marcus leaned on the railing, peering down at the gathered delegates as though addressing students. Preposterous? Perhaps. Then again, most of you find it absurd we survive on a planet with hurricanes, earthquakes, ice ages, predators, and oh yes, volcanoes that erupt with enough fury to blot out the sun. Tell me, Ambassador, how many of your kind survive if the temperature shifts by 5 degrees? Or if your food supply vanishes for a year? The Ilthari opened his mouth, then shut it. Marcus smiled politely. Exactly. The silence stretched, thick with unease. For the first time, the alien assembly wasn't talking over each other. They were listening. A ripple of whispers started in the back rows. Words like apex and unnatural passed between quivering mouths. The Faldorian matriarch, old and wise among her kind, spoke with effort. If what you claim is true, then what are you, Voidborn? Something beyond human? Marcus's eyes softened, but the smile didn't fade. Oh, nothing so grand. I'm just human. Born between the stars, raised in the void, taught to never mistake politeness for weakness. The delegates shifted. Some sneered, others looked away. A few simply stared, struggling against the invisible weight. Finally, the Draxan warlord slammed his clawed hand against the stone bench, the crack echoing across the chamber. His crest bristled with fury. Enough of this, he roared. We are not cattle to kneel under phantom terror. If you want respect, human, you'll earn it in battle, not in parlor tricks. Marcus turned his gaze on him, and the warlord faltered. Just for an instant, his posture dipped, a twitch, a microsecond of involuntary submission. The Draxan snarled, ashamed. I'd be happy to test myself against you, Marcus said softly. His tone was courteous, but the chamber's temperature seemed to drop. But you won't enjoy the lesson. The warlord's chest heaved, but he said nothing more. From the upper seats, a softer voice cut through the tension. Why reveal this at all? It was the voice of Counselor Thyrene, a frail member of a delicate avian species. Her feathers puffed anxiously as she spoke. If you are what you claim, if humans are what you imply, why not hide it longer? Why show your hand now? Marcus regarded her thoughtfully, then clasped his hands behind his back. An excellent question. He began pacing again, as though addressing an audience in a theater. Because concealment is a tactic, not a strategy. For centuries, we let you think of us as curiosities, loud, reckless, a touch amusing. The newcomers with strange music and stranger humor. You dismissed us as upstarts with unpredictable tempers. That was useful for a time. He paused at the center of the chamber, the weight of his presence pressing deeper into the bones of those listening. But a moment comes when a mask outlives its use. Today I remove ours. Murmurs erupted, frantic and hushed. The realization was spreading. The humans had never been naive. They had been patient. The Grell hissed again, his voice sharp. And what do you intend, human? To rule us? To dominate every council, every fleet, every world? Marcus chuckled and shook his head. Oh no. You misunderstand. Ruling galaxies sounds exhausting. Humans don't want to be emperors. We want to be free. Secure. Left unthreatened. He leaned forward, his eyes gleaming like a predator in the dark. And the only way to guarantee that is to make sure no one, no empire, no warlord, no so-called coalition, ever forgets what happens when they push us too far. The weight grew unbearable. Delegates shifted uncomfortably, some clutching the benches for support. It wasn't just fear. It was instinct, primal and undeniable, screaming submission. Marcus let the silence stretch, then smiled lightly again, as though nothing had changed. Now then. Where were we? Trade agreements, was it? The chamber erupted into chaos. Some delegates shouted accusations. Others demanded explanations. A few demanded immediate sanctions against humanity, while others whispered warnings that such actions might provoke something worse. The unity of the assembly cracked like thin ice under heavy boots. Through it all, Marcus remained calm. He adjusted his cufflinks, straightened his jacket, and whispered just loud enough for the nearest recording devices to catch. You should be asking not what we showed you today, but what we've chosen not to show. The weight receded abruptly, like a storm vanishing into clear skies. Aliens gasped for air, shaking, trembling, wiping sweat from brows or ichor from scales. The sudden absence of pressure was almost as shocking as its arrival. Marcus offered a courteous bow. Thank you for your patience. Humanity appreciates your attention. I do hope the experience was enlightening. And with that, he turned and walked calmly from the chamber, leaving the galaxy's finest leaders staring after him in stunned silence. For the first time in centuries, none of them felt certain about their own place in the order of things. The battlefield had gone silent. Not silent in the literal sense. Explosions still rippled across the void, fragments of alien hulls drifted, and dying ships screamed across comm channels, but the kind of silence that presses into the bones. The kind that comes when everyone realizes the war has already been decided, though the fighting hasn't fully stopped. The Aegis Eternal hovered in the darkness, engines glowing faintly like a predator catching its breath after the first strike. The human battleship was no longer hiding in quantum lock, and now, every surviving alien eye beheld it clearly. Its silhouette was not like their warcraft, angular, jagged, almost brutalist in design, radiating defiance. Where their fleets were elegant in form, the Aegis Eternal was function sharpened into menace. On the bridge, Commander Elias Vey leaned forward, one hand resting on the polished steel of the console. His face was half lit by the blue glow of tactical screens, half shadowed by the void outside. His voice carried without raising, steady, sharp, surgical. Targeting reports? 73% of their main fleet destroyed or disabled, said Lieutenant Hale. Remaining ships are scattering, no formation. Panic. Elias's eyes narrowed. And their command vessel? The holographic display highlighted a massive alien dreadnought, larger than anything humanity had ever built, except the Aegis. Its hull was cracked and burning, shields in collapse. But still it lingered, stubborn. They're clinging, Hale muttered. Refusing to bow, Elias allowed himself the faintest smile. Then let's show them what submission looks like. Across the void, inside the alien flagship Cryath Dominion, panic was clawing through the command deck. Officers of the Zyral Dominion shouted across comms, their skin glints dimming with fear. They tore through the entire second line in minutes. No ship can phase through quantum states like that. It's impossible. The supreme strategist of the Dominion, Valor Klyth, gripped the edge of his throne-like command seat. His talons scraped the alloy. His mind, trained across centuries of campaigns, refused to accept what his eyes confirmed. He turned to his advisors. What are they? Silence answered him. None dared speak the word. Humans. Klyth snarled. We eradicated them. Their homeworld lies as ash. Their fleets were scattered. And yet, one of his officers whispered, trembling, here they are. On the view screen, the human warship drifted closer. Its engines pulsed like the heartbeat of something alive. With every kilometer, its size became more monstrous, its intent unmistakable. They want us to see them, Klyth said softly, horror dawning. They want us to understand. Back aboard the Aegis Eternal, a channel opened. Alien symbols flooded the screen, fractured and static-ridden. Elias gave a nod, and the translator AI stabilized the message. The voice that came through was strained, defiant, cracking under its own weight. This is strategist Klyth of the Dominion. Identify yourself. Elias rose to his full height, stepping into the holographic field so his image would be projected aboard the enemy flagship. He appeared to them not as a warrior armored, but as a man in plain black uniform, calm, hands folded behind his back. His presence was deliberate, unadorned, human. I am Elias Vey, he said, voice steady. Commander of the Aegis Eternal. Survivor of Earth. Executor of its vengeance. The alien strategist's face twisted. Earth is dust. Humanity was broken. Elias's expression didn't shift. You mistook silence for death. We learned to speak again in darker tongues. Klyth bared his teeth. One ship cannot stand against the Dominion. Elias tilted his head, almost pitying. And yet here you are, bleeding, burning, and calling me. The alien bridge fell into silence. Klyth felt the eyes of his subordinates pressing on him. His authority, once unquestionable, now trembled. He looked back to the human's calm face, and it enraged him. What do you want? Submission, Elias said simply. Yours. Your fleets. Your empires. Laughter broke across the alien command deck, thin, hysterical laughter of beings too close to despair. One officer barked. Madness! You speak as if you wield gods! Elias's gaze flickered to the side. He gave a single nod. From the shadow of the void, space itself seemed to ripple. One after another, colossal shapes decloaked, human warships, each bearing scars of exile yet bristling with impossible weaponry. They emerged in silence, like predators circling wounded prey. 10, 20, 50. A fleet that should not exist. A fleet born of extinction, rebuilt in hidden crucibles. The alien laughter died. Elias's voice returned, colder now. We were patient. While you thought us dead, we forged ships in forgotten places. We tore physics apart until it bent to our survival. We waited for the day you would grow arrogant enough to forget fear. He stepped closer to the projection, his half-lit face sharp with resolve. That day is today. On the Dominion flagship, strategist Klyth's breath caught. He saw his empire reflected in the abyss, their supposed invincibility shattering under the reality of humanity's return. One of his generals whispered, voice trembling. If they unleash those ships, we will not survive. Klyth's claws dug into his throne. Rage warred with reason. The empire had never bowed, never yielded in its centuries of conquest. And yet, staring at those human vessels, hulking shadows bristling with energy beyond comprehension, he felt something he had not felt in a millennium. Fear. The human commander's voice was soft, but it carried the weight of inevitability. Kneel or burn. Inside the Aegis Eternal, silence hung after the ultimatum. The bridge crew watched the alien fleet's response unfold on their screens. Ships wavered, drifting without order. Crews mutinied to abandon hopeless fights. Some already powered down weapons, surrender flickering across signatures. Hale leaned forward. "They're breaking, sir." Elias didn't move, eyes fixed on the alien command ship. He knew KLYTH would fight the submission longer than most. Pride was a heavy chain. Finally, the Dominion strategist's image returned. His voice was hoarse, venom forced down his throat. "The Dominion submits." The words struck like thunder. Across the scattered remnants of the fleet, weapons dimmed, drives cooled. The empire that had ground countless worlds into dust bent its knee, because one ship had come back from humanity's grave, and behind it, an armada of nightmares. On the bridge of the Aegis Eternal, Elias gave a small nod, almost weary. His crew exhaled as if a storm had passed. Hale whispered. They actually bowed. Elias turned away from the projection, hands folding once again behind his back. His face was unreadable, carved from iron resolve. "They were never fighting us," he said quietly. "They were fighting the inevitability of what we became." Through the viewport, the Dominion's great fleet floated in surrender, dwarfed by the human armada now standing revealed. The silence in the void was not of defeat, but of something larger, the universe itself pausing to witness the return of a species it had tried to bury. The humans had not just survived. They had become the reckoning. And as the alien empires across the galaxy tuned into the broadcast of the Dominion's submission, a single truth echoed from system to system. Humanity had returned, and this time, they would not be denied.